On the east coast of the Mediterranean, surrounded by a war-torn and hell-cursed landscape, sits the fortress city of New Antioch. Though the forces of hell have conquered much of the surrounding lands, this bastion of Christendom stands strong, a city upon a hill that cannot be hidden. It is to this city that volunteers for the war at flood, and from it, that offensives to drive back the heretical and demonic to the dreaded realm they come from are staged. Preparing for such an offensive is a long and arduous task. Plans must be made, evaluated, and remade. Reconnaissance has to be carried out, supply lines prepared, and territory secured to make ready for a grand offensive. But such preparations are rarely easy. The Heretic Legion is always watching for a chance to waylay the plans of the faithful for their dark masters. And so again, as a warband of New Antioch moves to claim a defensive position in no man's land, they find themselves opposed by a heretic priest and his servants. Today's game is my very first look at Trench Crusade. It's a 900 cat, 8 glory game of claim no man's land between New Antioch and Heretic Legion. This was my first game, and even in the middle of playing I noticed some mistakes, so please do be understanding. Most notably, I didn't see how to determine the first activation until after the first round and just completely neglected blessing markers. Before I go too deep into the report, since this is the first time I'm covering the game, I should quickly highlight a few things about Trench Crusade. The first is that this is an alternating activation game. This means that each side takes turns activating one model and completing all its actions before moving on to the next. Some actions a model can take are considered risky. Failing a risky action immediately ends that model's activation. Dashing, an extra move, is one such action, which you will see failed a lot in this game. The battlefield was set up following the usual rules, with 5 buildings serving as the objectives and a scattering of large and small terrain pieces. In the center of the map there is a large bunker, with entrances on each side that face the deployment zones of both forces, allowing for it to be assaulted quickly. The north and south sides look out onto the 2 other avenues of attack, allowing the units that control it to contribute to the battle for the flanks. Along the north there's a ruined house and a watchtower, with a single trench between them. Both objectives offer light cover, making this a very scrappy and dangerous side to occupy. In the south, meanwhile, is a crumbling church and a small bunker, separated by a swamp, with a little bit of cover scattered around and a large wall beside the bunker. Both objectives offer significantly more cover, while the swamp obstructs attacks across this flank. Around the rest of the battlefield is a scattering of terrain, and a large trench in the middle of the New Antioch deployment zone. Speaking of New Antioch, their forces are led by a lieutenant in reinforced armor carrying a machine gun. He is joined on the southern flank by a sniper priest with sniper rifle, a Mendelist ammo monk, and 6 yeomen with bolt-action rifles, 2 of which, labeled as Blue 8, form a fire team, and one of them, Blue 7, carries a medikit. In the middle of the battlefield, occupying the trench and threatening the bunker, stands a trench cleric with reinforced armor, a trench shield, polearm, and grenades. He is accompanied by a witch burner and 3 shock troopers, each with standard armor, trench shields, and greatswords. Finally, in the north there is a single fire team of 2 yeomen, hoping to contest the ruined building. Opposite them, the Heretic Legion is led by a heretic priest, equipped with reinforced armor, a blasphemous staff, and automatic shotgun. He takes up a position in the middle of the field, surrounded by 5 wretched, each equipped with a trench club, 2 anointed heavy infantry with hellblades and trench shields, and a heretic legionnaire with a heavy flamethrower and standard armor. In the south, occupying the church are 2 heretic troopers with bolt-action rifles. The northern flank, meanwhile, has another heretic trooper with the same, 2 heretic legionnaires with automatic rifles, and an artillery witch. I ended up rolling to see who activates first, and New Antioch won the roll-off, choosing to take the first activation. New Antioch begins the battle with a push across the southern front, dashing with their yeomen when possible, and succeeding with a few. The Heretic Legion responds by moving the 2 Heretic troopers forward, firing on one of the yeomen and dashing aside. Both of them successfully inflict minor hits, placing 2 blood markers on the yeomen, before successfully ducking into cover, preventing New Antioch from firing back. The advance largely makes a lot of progress, with 4 of the 6 yeomen succeeding in dashing across the field. Behind them, the lieutenant enters the bunker and attempts to force the Heretic Priest to activate, but fails. The Sniper Priest also hurries into the bunker, and here I make another little mistake. I thought that the sniper rifles were heavy, meaning he couldn't shoot. They are, in fact, just risky, meaning that he absolutely could have taken a shot at the Heretic Priest, and if I had activated the Ammo Monk along with him, it could have been truly devastating. Lessons learned for next time, I guess. While New Antioch is rushing in the south, the Heretic Legion pushes forward to secure the bunker. They have a lot of bad luck with dashing, and only 1 anointed heavy infantry has dashed into the objective before New Antioch finishes their southern offensive. New Antioch moves to contest, the Witchburner walking forward, as befits his station, and using Judgment to place 2 blood markers on the Heretic Priest. The Heretic Priest moves to counterattack, rushing into the bunker himself and firing on the Witchburner. He scores a critical hit, which I also forgot adds dice to the damage, but he rolls well and manages to knock the Witchburner down, inflicting a blood marker in the process. The Trench Cleric moves up and throws a grenade into the bunker, aiming for the Heretic Priest, but missing everything. He then tries to inspire faith with his God is with us ability, but fails, bringing his advance to an end. While the rest of the Heretic Legion rushes forward to secure the bunker, the Shock Troopers attempt to dash forward. This is a risky play, but Shock Troopers have more consistent charges, and from this position they can reach the Heretic Legion within the bunker if they succeed in a dash. A charge and a regular move are mutually exclusive, while a dash can be combined with a charge. The first dash fails, leaving the Shock Trooper stalled out. The second, however, passes, and he rushes towards the bunker before charging and attacking the anointed heavy infantry. He hits, but rolls so poorly that the infantry's armor saves him from even taking a blood marker. The last Shock Trooper plays it safe, moving forward and dashing in to put an extra body on the objective. Sadly, the Heretic Legion successfully got a single wretched into the bunker, securing the objective for this turn. While New Antioch finishes its push in the center, the Heretic Legion has begun pushing in the north. The first Heretic Trooper rushes into the trench for cover, while one of the Legionnaires hurries to the south, getting a line of sight onto one yeoman and snapping off 2 shots with his automatic rifle. He lands one of them and rolls an 11 on the injury roll, scoring the first kill of the game by knocking the yeoman out of action. The remaining member of his fire team moves into the building and fires on the Heretic Trooper, but misses, and then fails his dash, leaving him exposed and bringing the New Antioch turn to a close, the Mandelist Ammo Monk having already moved to occupy the bunker in the south. The Heretic Legion swoops in for the kill, the second Legionnaire moving forward and firing twice to land a minor hit and then dashing into cover. Finally, the Artillery Witch floats up onto the watchtower and throws an artillery shell at the ruined house. She barely misses, moving the point an inch away before scoring a 7 on her injury roll as he's caught in the blast, knocking the yeoman down and inflicting serious damage. The first turn comes to an end with the scores close, New Antioch scoring 5 points for occupying 2 objectives and contesting a third, while the Heretic Legion scores 6 points for occupying 3 objectives. With the dead yeoman, the number of models on each side is the same, and New Antioch gets to activate first again. The downed yeoman activates first. Taking a gamble, he fires at the Heretic Legionnaire in the trench and manages to land a hit. He successfully knocks the Heretic Legionnaire out of action, scoring a victory point for accomplishing the glorious deed, Resist and Bite. As a quick aside, glorious deeds are an interesting thing that Trench Crusade does, where they give you 6 or 7 cool things to try and accomplish throughout the battle to score victory points. Compared to the main objectives, they don't pay out nearly as much and can only be accomplished once, but I always appreciate a game that makes the effort to encourage the cool, fun, and potentially cinematic moments by giving out victory points for doing them. Seeing that the north flank is no longer going to develop, the Heretic Legion focuses on the central bunker, activating the forward anointed heavy infantry and attacking the shock trooper, which successfully takes him out of action, before moving towards the door to obstruct New Antioch's approach. The trench cleric activates in response, throwing a grenade at the heavy infantry and missing, before charging in himself and landing a minor hit. The fight for the bunker occupies the bulk of the following activations. The Heretic Priest fires at the shock trooper, missing his shot before charging in and landing a critical hit with his blasphemous staff. Here we have another mistake, as somehow I calculated that it should inflict 4 blood markers instead of the actual 2. I believe I misunderstood how critical worked and thought it doubled the amount of inflicted blood markers. The Witchburner charges the heavy anointed infantry and lands a solid hit, inflicting 3 blood markers due to divine judgment. While the Heretic Legion turns its attention elsewhere, the shock trooper activates and attacks the Heretic Priest. 2 blood markers are spent to reduce him to -1 dice, and he misses the attack. The final shock trooper charges into the heavy anointed infantry, but misses with his attack. With New Antioch's offensive now expended, the Heretic Legion counterattacks. A wretched charges the trench cleric, but misses his attack. A single 1, dragging down the 2 5s and a 6 he rolled. The Heretic Legionnaire activates next, and fires his flamethrower at the Witchburner and the trench cleric. In the chaos, he ends up hitting both the trench cleric and the wretched, and kills both. With this, the Heretic Legion rests their assault into the bunker. While New Antioch was pushing into the bunker, the Heretic Legion was executing their push in the north. The Heretic Trooper rushes into the house to contest the objective, firing as he moves, but failing to land a hit. The Heretic Legionnaire follows him, rushing into the trench and opening fire on the downed yeoman. He lands both shots, using the 3 blood markers to try and execute the downed yeoman. This attempt fails, and he spends the gained blood marker on the next shot to try and secure the kill, and does so, winning the northern flank for the Heretic Legion. In the south, New Antioch is making their own push, running 2 yeomen into the church. The first 2 fire on one of the Heretic troopers, the second managing to down him. This is what brought the push in the bunker to a temporary pause, as the Heretic Legion activates the uninjured trooper to fire at the wounded yeoman, spending the blood marker to increase his chances of injuring him. It succeeds, knocking the yeoman out of action. Another yeoman rushes forward and fires at the Heretic Legionnaire with the flamethrower. He misses, and fails his attempt to dash to get back into the church. The other Heretic trooper gets to his feet and fires at the remaining yeoman, before relocating for better cover. This proves to be a mistake, as the sniper priest activates and downs him immediately. Another yeoman advances into position to fire and shoots at the downed Heretic trooper, killing him in the process, and setting New Antioch up to control the church. This is followed by a third yeoman rushing in, pausing to snap another shot at the Legionnaire before dashing into the church, giving New Antioch a numerical advantage. This does not sit well with the artillery witch. From across the battlefield, she throws her artillery shell, landing a perfect hit between the 2 men. The yeoman with the medikit is knocked down, while the other is taken out of action, laying waste to New Antioch's ambitions. The lieutenant activates in response, alongside the ammo monk, who fails to empower him. Even so, he opens fire, shooting over the bunker and across the battlefield to gun down the witch. He hits all 3 shots, first scoring a minor hit, then knocking her down, and finally taking her out of action. Now that the church is only lightly contested, the Heretic Legion begins to reassign wretched from the bunker assault to the church, one of them dashing through the doors to secure the objective. The last yeoman advances and fires on him, but cannot land a hit nor reach the structure. To add insult to injury, a second wretched rushes towards the building, falling just a few steps short of entering the structure. In the midst of this conflict, The 2nd Heavy Anointed Infantry and 2 other Wretched entered the bunker, but none of them made any attacks. With this, New Antioch controls just 1 objective and contests 2, scoring them 4 victory points, while the Heretic Legion controls 3, scoring them 6 victory points. The attack on the Artillery Witch proved highly impactful, as it denied the 4th objective to the Heretic Legion, and will force them to adjust their position in subsequent turns to recapture it. The 3rd turn once again begins with a focus on the central bunker. The Witchburner attacks the Heavy Anointed Infantry, with a blood marker spent to try and weaken him. Despite it, he hits, and successfully downs the Heretic, pushing him to 6 blood markers, and scoring another point of glory. The Shock Trooper follows up, spending a total of 4 blood markers to put him out of commission, before charging the Heretic Priest. The Heretic Legionnaire sees his chance to earn himself a promotion. He fires with his flamethrower at the Witchburner and one of the Shock Troopers. The Witchburner is immolated to death, but the second burst hits the Heretic Priest instead. It would be enough to kill a normal man, but the priest is too tough, and endures the flames, only getting knocked down in the process. The remaining Shock Trooper capitalizes on the opportunity, and the Heretic Legion has to spend all the blood markers on him to prevent him hitting the Heretic Priest. Now that New Antioch has expended all their effort within the bunker, the Heretic Legion goes on the offensive. The Heavy Anointed Infantryman charges at both Shock Troopers, achieving glory as he does so, and manages to knock one of them down. The Heretic Priest attacks the same Shock Trooper, and misses, before using his Puppet Master ability to move the Heavy Anointed Infantry away. He tanks 2 swings in the process, but comes out with barely a scratch. Finally, the 2 Wretched pile in. The first fails to do any damage, but the second manages to down the standing Shock Trooper, priming them for a painful final turn. In the north, the Heretic Legion reigns supreme. They hold the house, and the Heretic Legionnaire tries to dash towards the tower, but fails to make it, giving a small sliver of hope to New Antioch, though it is a feeble one. In the south, the Heretic Legion has a little bit of initiative. The Heretic Trooper fires at the downed yeoman, but misses. The Wretched outside the church charges the yeoman as well, swinging wildly and failing to do any damage. Encouraged by the success, the yeoman attacks, missing completely, before trying to disengage. This time, the Wretched hits him, and manages to take him out of action. The Sniper Priest activates, alongside the Mandela Stammer Monk, and fires an empowered shot at the Wretched who is yet to activate, and manages to down him. The Lieutenant follows his example, opening fire on the nearest Wretched, but only managing to inflict a single minor hit with his 3 shots. The downed Wretched climbs to his feet, and dashes deeper into the church, trying to get out of line of sight. The yeomen begin activating and swarming the church. The 2 near the opening of the wall fire at the Wretched as they advance. The first misses as he runs forward, but the other manages to down him. Sadly, even downed, the Wretched still blocks the way, and so he dashes around to the front entrance. The final yeoman rushes to the entrance and fires at the Heretic Legionnaire with the flamethrower, trying to prevent him from doing any more damage this battle, but misses. He then tries to dash into the church, but this as well fails. The 3rd turn ends with things looking very grim for New Antioch, as they take a morale test to avoid fleeing the battle. They succeed, but the Heretic Legion has scored 7 victory points this turn, from holding 3 objectives and scoring glory, while New Antioch has only scored 5, 1 from controlling the bunker, another from glory, and 2 more from contesting 2 objectives. The battle in the central bunker in the final turn is short, but brutal. A Shock Trooper activates and jumps up to attack the Heretic Priest. Both sides spend their blood markers to swing the outcome, and ultimately, the Heretic Priest goes down. Before the next one can attack, the Heretic Legionnaire fires his flamethrower at both. He hits the one that's yet to activate, and knocks him out of action, as well as the Heretic Priest, who is downed again, and with no further threat, waits his turn. In the north, the Heretic Legionnaire secures the tower, and fires on the yeomen in the south, but misses both shots. The fire support for the church continues as the lieutenant activates alongside the ammo monk. The ammo monk's efforts fail, but he still guns down the wretched with a dreadful volley, the first shot bloodying his target enough for the second to make a bloody mess, and leaving the Heretic Legion unlikely to hold the church. The yeomen both rush into the church, firing at the Heretic trooper. The first misses, but the second manages to down his target. He climbs to his feet and fires back, managing to inflict only a minor hit. The final yeoman rushes in and fires at the wretched. He fails to do any damage and is charged for his effort, but the blood marker on the wretched is spent to prevent him doing any damage, and the church is secured. Back in the bunker, the Heretic priest activates. He climbs to his feet and swings at the shock trooper. All 3 blood markers are spent, but it's not enough, and he lands a powerful blow that knocks the shock trooper out of action. With this, no models have anything left to do, and the game comes to an end. The Heretic Legion controls 2 objectives and is touching a third, scoring them 5 victory points, while New Antioch merely controls 2, granting them 4 victory points. This brings the final scores to 25 to 18, scoring the Heretic Legion a victory. Before I review the battle and give my thoughts on Trench Crusade, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Every bit helps ensure there are more videos to come in the future. Next up, I'm working on a short video about a 5,000 point game of Warhammer Fantasy, which will probably be followed by a full, proper battle report on the same game. So as I said, there are a lot of mistakes made in this game, in terms of rules, in terms of strategy, and honestly in terms of battlefield design. I covered the major rules problems as I spotted them in the review, but if there's anything else I got wrong, feel free to let me know about it in the comments. In terms of strategy, honestly everything worked out fine for the Heretic Legion. I think the only thing I would have done differently is had a wretched dedicated to occupying the watchtower to prevent it being lost if the artillery witch died, which was very sad when she did as it's one of my favourite units in the game, but letting it live would have been suicide. On the New Antioch side, there's a couple of things. The first is the deployment of the Sniper Priest. He should have been put up on the north flank, where he could try and push back the advance. Honestly, the same might be true for the Lieutenant. They had a decent amount of targets, but I'm not convinced they both needed to be there, especially when a fire team sitting in the bunker would have probably been about as effective. The complete abandoning of the north flank is the big issue here. Too much effort was put into attacking the very defensive position, and not enough into winning the north. The initial thought when I was theory crafting the New Antioch strategy was that they'd win the bunker and be able to push through to threaten the rest of the game. This was before I realized how strong armor was and how hard getting through the heavy anointed infantry would be. With all that said, Trench Crusade is a much harder game for me to post-game analyze than Warhammer Fantasy. There's a lot less stuff that's prescriptive. Movement can fail, an enemy hit can be used to sabotage your plans, the order you activate things in is impactful in a way that I'm not yet used to handling. All of that comes together to leave me uncertain of what was luck and what was bad planning. Finally, the map issue. I like the central bunker. I think it's a cool idea. I like most of the buildings, and I wouldn't change much about them. Except for the house. The ruined house I would spin around 180 degrees so that the bulk of the walls face out and there's more cover for the side holding it. I didn't want to do that initially because the tower is also exposed, but actually the tower has a fully safe spot on the stairs, and leaving it open just invites that flank to fall apart completely. Beyond that, I didn't like the giant trench in the New Antioch deployment. It's just too much of the terrain placement being consumed for something that does nothing. That said, I'm not sure what I'd put instead, so potentially a moot point. Now let's talk about the game. Obviously, this is my first game of Trench Crusade. At the time of writing this, I've only gotten a second game in. Despite that, I mostly enjoy it. I had a lot of fun in both games, and I'm looking forward to playing it again. Which is going to make my next comments very confusing because I also have a lot of criticisms. Let's start with the setting. I think the vibes are great. I enjoy the setting. But it also feels a little awkward. Using explicitly Christian beliefs is something that I'm not particularly comfortable with. reading the phrase, "the God Tyrant Yahweh," doesn't sit great with me as a Christian. Obviously, the setting is fictional, and the God presented here is not the same as the actual God, but invoking his name and imagery feels tacky and edgy without any real gain. Now on to the rules. On this front, I have two major issues and I will be brief with them, but if people would like, I can elaborate on them eventually. First off, the dice system. It's interesting, it's fun, its probability curve is insane. A neutral test has a 58% chance of success, that jumps to 80% with a +1 and 90% with a +2. Meanwhile, a -1 drops it to 31%, and a -2 brings it down to just 17%. The way it behaves feels unintuitive to me, and I'm kind of leery of it from a balance perspective, but right now my issues are vibe-based, so I'm going to let the numbers speak for themselves, and I'll loop back on this if people care for deeper thoughts. The other thing I don't like is alternating activation. I know a lot of people like it. I know a lot of people think it solves a lot of problems, and I think everyone is missing a few tricks with alternating activation. I will be incredibly brief on this point, as I could make a whole video digging into this, but in short, I don't think alternating activation actually solves problems. I think it trades them for different problems, which are often less notable and thus harder to address. And also I think it makes for a nightmare game to play solo, which is how I like to engage with the hobby, so my issues may be driven by that bias more than most. With all those complaints out the way, like I said, I had a good time. I want to play more. Right now it's a solid 8 out of 10 experience for me. How that'll change over time remains to be seen. And if I do start to dislike it, there's enough in here that I genuinely think it'll make a great basis of future homebrew projects. I can already envision a Necromunda-like game using the actions and activation system pretty well. Who knows, maybe I'll even make a video out of that one day. Probably not.